This is a continuation of breaking the panic habit. This is part 3. So we'll go back to Carly, who the first thing she did, she realized she was having anxiety. The second thing she did is noticed where in her body she was feeling it. She began to notice the images she was getting. So for her, after she thought, oh, I have to go out, I have to get dressed, it was more like, oh no, I have to go out. And the way she described it, she walked into her closet, she was pulling out her clothing, and she said, oh no, I have to go out. So right there, we made a change. This is a change on the cognitive or the thought part. Instead of anybody who has anxiety, when you say, I have to do something, it's going to create dissonance in your body. Experiment with this. I asked Carly to say, I'm going to choose to go out because I don't want to stay home today. Just changing the simple word from have to choose to makes a huge difference in how the body responds. Then we began to look at something underneath. So for Carly, the feeling of I have nothing really exciting to do, I have nothing that is productive today, for her that makes her feel really bad. And so the next step was to find tiny, tiny, tiny little things in her day, even when nothing was planned, some small thing that she can feel like, I have something productive to do today. Some small thing that she can appreciate herself for. So basically I asked her, okay, maybe before choosing to get dressed, are there 3 things that you can do around the house that, even though they're really tiny, that would bring you joy, that make you feel like, oh great, okay, I got those 3 things done. It could be as simple as writing an article, if that's something she had to do. It could be as simple as finding a beautiful pocketbook that she just adores. This person has beautiful clothing and beautiful pocketbooks. Looking at that pocketbook and saying, I am so joyful that I have this. So something to either have appreciation about or something to make you feel like you have there's something important to do that day. So for her, just having appreciation of small things, that worked. And the strangest thing happened when she started appreciating small things. It made her feel like her day was productive because there was something she could appreciate about that day. The other thing we asked her to do is change the I have to I choose to go out. Now we go into the next part. A big part of her fear was having anxiety and losing control. And she had this picture of her shaking, unable to move. Now that sounds like it was the root, but it really wasn't. As she became curious, she began just to be curious. Okay, what's really under that? What's really creating so much distress? Even if I were to be shaking, even if anxiety came, what's so terrible? She realized that her next the next statement she made to herself was, you get it, what's wrong with me? And the what's wrong with me was the part that was adding, not only did she shoot herself with the arrow 1 of having anxiety, now she's shooting herself again with the second arrow of self-blame. So basically, her body this is the explanation. If you have anxiety, it's your unconscious mind way of actually thinking it's about to protect you. It's setting you up with the chemicals that you would need to fight or flee. So if you were living in the cave days and a bear was coming at you, you would really appreciate having that anxiety because that would get you moving faster than normal and you'd get out of the way of the bear. But what happens for us today, we don't see any bear coming. There is no bear. So what happens is we begin to think, what's wrong with me that I have this feeling inside? So this next part of this is really an important part, is to get rid of the what's wrong with me and find acceptance. And the way we do that is, I'm really curious what this anxiety is about. And as you continue using I'm really curious and really being curious, if you do I'm curious, well, it must be because this, then you're not being curious. You're actually waiting for your unconscious part of your mind to give you an idea of what is triggering. And let me tell you, there is always a reason that anxiety gets triggered. Many times we give meaning to things. Like for her, the thought of getting dressed and having nothing exciting to do that day, she's a person who likes to feel like she's been productive. And the thought of not being productive actually went all the way back to her childhood, where her parents would say, don't just sit there being lazy, you should do something. So when she thought her day was empty, those old patterns, those old voices came up blaming her. So instead of enjoying her day, she was feeling guilty for not having anything major planned. So for her, again, even the smallest thing of appreciation gave her something to do and began to release some of the anxiety and panic. And we will continue in the next podcast for the last and final step of breaking the anxiety habit.